Morning, Ms. Keating.
Good morning. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Deputy Clerk Lori, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Wilkinson,
Present.
Mayor Brown,
Present.
Councilmember Tate,
Present.
Tucson,
Present.
Councilmember Curtis. Councilmember McLean, Councilmember King.
Present.
And move to excuse the missing council member Simmons and McLean.
Support. Been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Please rise as you're able for a moment of silence in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Any updates or changes? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I just want to note the absence of 228 and 229. So if people were here to make public comment on that, that's not here, right? Just the other business that we had to take care of on Tuesday that we didn't get to. So.
All righty, thank you. This is our opportunity for public comment. Members of the audience will have 3 minutes to address council. I will start with those who signed up on the list. Then I will move to hands in the audience, and then I will move to Zoom. When I call your name, please approach the podium, state your name and your address for the record, and I ask you to please abide by your 3 minutes. Be respectful. We will respect you in return. First name on the list, I see. Oh, the timer. Okay. Give us 1 second. I take one. Steve, you want to give 220 to Councilmember King? You're fine. Sweet, can you give 223 to Councilmember King?
But wait, there's more.
And then Councilmember Tucson, you give 227, please, to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
David Davis. Good morning.
Good morning. I know 228 and 229 are not on the agenda, but I'm still going to talk about it. My name is David Davis, for the record, and I live in Ypsilanti Township. So I work, volunteer, socialize, and shop in the city of Ypsilanti. I'm here as one voice among many to demand that you vote no to resolutions 228 and 229 and to counter-propose a people's resolution. Whereas the Ypsilanti City Council tried to solve a social problem with police force and violence, and whereas the City Council attempted to sneak in a resolution contradicting a ballot initiative thousands of Ypsilanti residents signed in support, now therefore be it resolved, we will not let business carry on as usual. Whereas business owners, landlords, and elected officials push narratives dehumanizing poor people, and whereas homeless people are not the problem, and whereas slumlord landlord monopolies are the problem, and whereas average rent in Ypsi has raised more than 3% in the last year to over $1,500 a month, and whereas structural inequalities and systemic failures such as lack of affordable housing, no emergency shelter, underfunded mental health and substance use treatment services, and increasing poverty have contributed to a lack of safety for some Ypsilanti residents. And whereas safety cannot be achieved without adequate access to basic survival resources such as shelter, food, restrooms, and healthcare. And whereas police are much more expensive and empirically less effective at providing a safe community for everyone than shelter and housing, now therefore it be resolved that the city will support and fund unarmed non-police response. Be it further resolved that the city will pursue all possible avenues to build and fund a 24/7 emergency shelter. Be it further resolved, the city will pursue all possible avenues to build an adequate amount of public housing. Be it further resolved that the city of Ypsilanti will remove their substance use treatment facility zoning codes that block providers from providing SUD services downtown. Be it further resolved that the city manager is hereby directed to use all appropriate avenues, including the public safety and mental health millage reimbursements from the county and cannabis tax income from the state, to support these initiatives and provide compassionate, community-centered resources that address the root causes of poverty, substance use, and homelessness while respecting the dignity and civil rights of all residents. That's my time.
Thank you. Pete Moss Ellis.
Hi, my name is Pete Moss. I have worked at the Daytime Warming Center for the last 4 years. I'm here as one voice among many to demand that you vote no to resolutions 228 and 229, never bring them back to the agenda, and to counter propose a people's resolution. Whereas the Ypsilanti City Council tried to solve a social problem with police force and violence, and whereas the council attempted to sneak in a resolution contradicting a ballot initiative thousands of Ypsilanti residents signed in support. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we will not let business carry on as usual. Whereas business owners, landlords, and elected officials push narratives dehumanizing poor people, and whereas homeless people are not the problem, and whereas slumlord landlord monopolies are the problem, and whereas average rent in Ypsilanti has raised more than 3% in the last year to over $1,500 a month, and whereas structural inequalities and systematic failures such as lack of affordable housing, no emergency shelter, underfunded mental health and substance use treatment services, and increasing poverty have contributed to a lack of safety for some Ypsilanti residents. And whereas safety cannot be achieved without adequate access to basic survival resources such as shelter, food, restrooms, and healthcare, and whereas police are much more expensive and empirically less effective at providing a safe community for everyone than shelter and housing. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the city will support and fund unarmed non-police response. Be it further resolved that the city will pursue all possible avenues to build and fund a 24/7 emergency shelter. Be it further resolved, the city will pursue all possible avenues to build an adequate amount of public housing. Be it further resolved that the city of Ypsilanti will remove their substance use treatment facility zoning codes that block providers from providing services downtown. Be it further resolved that the city manager is hereby directed to use all appropriate avenues, including the public safety and mental health millage reimbursements from the county and cannabis tax income from the state, to support these initiatives and provide compassionate, community-centered resources that address the root causes of poverty, substance use, and homelessness, while respecting the dignity and civil rights of all residents. Thank you.
Philip Patterson.
Everybody. First, I just want to voice my support for the People's resolution. And I'm also here to speak against the ordinances in regards to the Washington Street that everyone is here to talk about. I'm actually a business owner. I have a business just down the couple blocks down the street here, IT company. And I've lived in and around Ypsi since 2007. In 2013, I had the unfortunate situation to rent from Mr. Stuart Beal. Stuart Beal is known as being a main proponent of this Washington Street ordinances in question here. And in 2013, I had heard his reputation and I thought, I don't know, even if he is really that bad of a slumlord, I don't need much. I can suck it up. And let me tell you, it really was that bad. Within the first couple months, we were being threatened eviction because we were not paying for gas, even though in the lease that both myself and Mr. Beal had signed, it said that gas was fully included in our rent. And he attempted to evict us in the middle of summer for a trivial amount of money, and he threatened my stability and my partner's stability. During this time, we decided to go door to door and say, if he is really this bad, let's find out how bad this man is. And let me tell you, he really is this bad. He will let the roof fall in on people sleeping and then try to build them for the roof collapsing. He will tell one tenant that their utilities are covered, and then he'll tell the other tenants in the same house that they're all paying proportional. He will stick one person with utilities of an entire house and give them different deals on every one. He will let the city attempt to evict his tenants for his failure to pay taxes. These are something that I think we're all very aware of here. But one thing that you might not know is I knocked over at least 200 doors that summer. And within those 200 doors, there were only 5 doors that said anything good about Mr. Beal. Only 5. Those houses were strange houses. Everyone I had talked to was being threatened for eviction for very small, trivial things. And I talked to one lady and she said, I don't know why, but you need to talk to Stuart Beal because there are all these used needles in my yard. I'd go and talk to that neighbor and they'd be like, we have no problem with Stuart Beal. I'd go to okay, well, that's strange because everyone else says they have a problem with Stuart Beal. I go to another house and they're clearly running some sort of drug operation. It's very obvious. They have no problem with Stuart Beal. They have nothing bad to say about the man. And yet all of these people do. And so when we're talking about vice in the city, crime in the city, I need us all to think about where the problem comes from. Thank you.
Seth Best. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Seth Best. I'm a Ypsilanti resident. I'm here this morning to talk about Resolution 229 and opposing of that. I was here on Tuesday in which a speaker said that it'd be better to just arrest everyone and send them to jail because at least they'll get 3 hots in a cot. And I was immediately struck by the fact, pretty sure we've heard something like that before in a Dickens novel, in which Ebenezer Scrooge said it would be better if people just die and if they didn't want to go to what was provided. And I just am struck by that. Here we are almost 200 years later, and we're talking about the exact same thing. And we're blaming the exact same people for problems that are not of their own making. We live in a society in which me as a poor person has less of a voice in city council matters than someone who has a business. And that's not how America's supposed to work. It's supposed to be one vote, one voice, one vote. And it has to be from where you live at. We need to be able to have money come in, but we also need to not do it on the backs of those who can at least afford it. I'm not going to end up using my whole time because I've am lost in what else to say other than I'm very disappointed that we are going to choose to do something that we know is going to cost more money by incarcerating people, that we know that when someone is incarcerated, they are less likely to be able to get a job, to be able to afford someplace to live, to afford their basic needs. Yet we are going to do that to make sure that somebody doesn't get something for free. We're going to pay more to make people's lives more miserable than doing the simple thing of just providing housing. Research study after research study has proven that it costs more to keep somebody on the street than it is to just provide housing. In Utah, they did a research study and it said that it would cost approximately $20,000 a year per person to keep someone on the street. By providing wraparound housing with being able to provide housing, mental health services, it costs $15,000 a year. So again, we're going to spend more money to keep people miserable than actually doing the right thing by keeping somebody safe and happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay Kalka. If I said that correctly.
Good morning. My name is Lindsay Kalka, and I live on Washington Street, right next to the bus station. And I'm here as one voice among many to take for never again for these resolutions to be on the agenda or anything like it. And to counter a people's resolution, which any of us can email to you, so you can read this if you're not hearing it now. Whereas the city of Ypsilanti City Council tried to solve a social problem with police force and violence, and whereas the council attempted to sneak in a resolution contradicting the ballot initiative thousands of Ypsilanti residents signed in support. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we will not let business carry on as usual. Whereas business owners, landlords, and elected officials push narratives dehumanizing poor people, and whereas homeless people are not the problem, and whereas slumlord landlord monopolies are the problem, and whereas average rent in Ypsi has raised more than 3% in the last year to over $1,500 a month, and whereas structural inequalities and systemic failures such as lack of affordable housing, no emergency shelter, underfunded mental health care, and substance use treatment services and increasing poverty have contributed to a lack of safety for some Ypsilanti residents. And whereas safety cannot be achieved without adequate access to basic survival resources such as shelter, food, restrooms, and healthcare, and whereas police are much more expensive and empirically less effective at providing safe community for everybody than shelter and housing. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the city will support and fund unarmed non-police response. Be it further resolved that the city will pursue all possible avenues to build and fund a 24/7 emergency shelter. Shelter now. Be it further resolved, the city will pursue all possible avenues to build an adequate amount of public housing. Be it further resolved that the city of Ypsilanti will remove their substance use treatment facility zoning codes that block providers from providing SUD services downtown. Be it further resolved that the city manager is hereby directed to use all appropriate avenues, including the public safety and mental health millage reimbursements from the county and the cannabis tax income from the state, to support these initiatives and provide compassionate, community-centered resources that address the root causes of poverty, substance use, and homelessness, while respecting the dignity and civil rights of all residents. Thank you for considering this.
Thank you. Eric McCleary. Good morning.
Good morning. Howdy, folks. My name's Eric McCleary. I'm a Ward 2 resident off of Michigan Ave. Frankly, I'm shocked by the character of this council. I've lived in Ypsi for 2 years and I love this city. And one of the things that makes this city great is the fact that we look out for each other. This is not looking out for our citizens. The people in this crowd right now are the people who go to those businesses and spend their hard-earned dollars on Ypsi, who love Ypsi. And we're out here defending the homeless because we see a national push to harm the least among us. You know what you're doing, every one of you. And it's not every one of you, but do not bring this resolution back to this city. You're here to serve us. We do not want this. Find us solutions that protect your businesses, protect your community, protect your homes, that don't sacrifice human lives. It's that simple. On top of that, giving a city manager police powers so that we can figure out what they do after the fact is absurd. You all know what that resolution is. You all know what that resolution is doing. You can find other ways to protect your assets. How about here in Ypsi, for a change, somewhere in America, we protect people? Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Kirkpatrick. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. I was here on Tuesday and I didn't get a chance to speak, unfortunately. So I'm here to talk. I'm Matt Kirkpatrick. I'm a professor at Eastern. I've lived in Ypsi for 10 years, Ypsi City for 10 years, first as a renter downtown, now as a homeowner about 2 blocks from here. We know that the city has some problems that would be served by things like a shelter, although my understanding is the county is often the agency that runs a shelter and increased services. But we also, there's a longer or a shorter term issue downtown of safety. And I'm not here to disagree with anything that anybody has said. However, my daughter's a student in Ypsi public schools. My wife and I walk around this neighborhood a lot. Both my wife and daughter have been harassed. I understand there are reports of assault, prostitution, drug dealing. I've witnessed those things. I'm not sure that the problem is the beer cooler fed up. Who I don't know. I'm not aware of that, but I do think that the city needs some leadership around this. And I don't know that the resolution is going to fix anything. I'm not here to say that I support that. I just think that the city council mayor needs to show some action on this. in some way that addresses the shorter term problem. Online, I read Desiree Simmons said there are some things we could do. I want to hear what those things are, and I think we need a forum at least to talk about this stuff where police aren't the thing that's on the table, where we talk about what can we do. You know, I know the library will one day reopen, and I want my daughter to be able to walk to it without getting yelled at or chased. And I know that this isn't everybody's experience, but the lived experience of the people in this neighborhood is something to consider as well. So I'm here just to ask that the city leadership step up and do something about it, and communicate that to everybody and give us a forum to speak. And I'm happy today that this is a space to say that, but I think that there's more work to be done beyond this resolution. So thank you.
Thank you. Keisha Wall. Good morning.
My name is Keisha. I'm here as one voice among many to demand that you vote no on resolutions 228 and 229 and to counter-propose a people's resolution, although it would be best if 228 and 229 also just never showed up again. Whereas the Ypsi City Council tried to solve a social problem with police force and violence, and whereas the council attempted to sneak in a resolution contradicting a ballot initiative thousands of Ypsilanti residents signed in support, now therefore be it resolved. We will not let business carry on as usual. Whereas business owners, landlords, and elected officials push narratives dehumanizing poor people, and whereas homeless people are not the problem, and whereas slumlord landlord monopolies are the problem, and whereas average rent in Ypsi has raised more than 3% in the last year to over $1,500 a month, and whereas structural inequalities and systematic failures such as lack of affordable housing, no emergency shelter, underfunded mental health and substance use treatment services, and increasing poverty have contributed to a lack of safety for some Ypsilanti residents, and whereas safety cannot be achieved without adequate access to basic survival resources such as shelter, food, restrooms, and healthcare, and whereas police are much more expensive and empirically less effective at providing a safe community for everyone than shelter and housing, now therefore be it resolved that the city will support and fund unarmed non-police response. Be it further resolved that the city will pursue all possible avenues to build and fund a 24/7 emergency shelter. Be it further resolved that the city will pursue all possible avenues to build an adequate amount of public housing. Be it further resolved that the city of Ypsilanti will remove their substance use treatment facility zoning codes that block providers from providing SUD services downtown. Be it further resolved that the city manager is hereby directed to use all appropriate avenues, including the public safety and mental health millage reimbursements from the county and cannabis tax income from the state, to support these initiatives and provide compassionate, community-centered resources that address the root causes of poverty, substance use, and homelessness, while respecting the dignity and civil rights of all residents. You heard the voices of many last Tuesday instead of just the voices and money of few. And I just want to say that resolutions 228 and 229 are not a Band-Aid to any problems. They are a new wound. So please remove 228 and adopt something that will actually help the majority of your citizens. Thank you.
Jim Clark.
Good morning. My name is Jim Clark. I live 5 blocks from here. I'm here because I'm deeply disturbed by the language used in 228 and 229. There's 2 phrases in there that are completely dehumanizing. I wanted to read you something that I found last night, just a very short thing. Well, I can't find it now. I looked up some examples of dehumanizing language, and the Holocaust came up. That's one of the ways that the Nazis were able to justify killing thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people by not thinking of them as beings, as human beings. One of my favorite dehumanizing words is chattel, as in chattel slavery. That is what the slave owners used to call their people that were slaves. They're dehumanizing language. The trend that I'm seeing in this country is even more sinister. Johnson's versus Grants Pass made it okay for any city or state or county to create any kind of laws that they want dealing with homelessness. Did you know that the state of Tennessee considers homelessness a felony? If they get picked up on a felony for homelessness, they can be sent to prison. Guess what? There's so many states that still have chattel slavery on their constitutions as an appropriate punishment if you're imprisoned. So we're talking about rounding up people, sending them to jail, sending them to prison, and then using them as slaves. Now let's get back to the genocide for a second. What happens when people go to prison? There's horrible environmental conditions there. There's violence. There's all kinds of ways that people can suffer and die. Or we can simply just sweep people out of the places that they're in, like they're doing in California, taking away their what little stability they have in the form of a meager shelter like a tent, pushing them out into the elements, further destabilizing them. They say, you know, get a job. How are you supposed to get a job if you don't have a place to get ready for work? Furthermore, this past winter, Joe Sessi tried to sweep some people sleeping on his property in the middle of the winter. It was -6. So that's another good way to kill people that you don't want around, is just expose them to the elements. So I don't know what you're planning on doing if you pass this resolution and the police come down there, but you can pretty much do whatever you want. And since you've already demonstrated that you don't consider them to be people, I am afraid for them. Wake up. Tell that man to change those words. We're not going to stand for it. You understand that? We're not going to stand for it. Get rid of that resolution. Take some of the language out of here. I mean, for crying out loud, an emergency shelter would do the same thing.
Those are the only names that I have signed up on the list. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address council? Sir?
If passing a resolution will make this city safe, I want you to pass it. I lived in Ypsilanti since 1956. I've been active in Ypsilanti for a long time, and I know what goes on in Ypsilanti. I look for the homeless people. If they were homeless, that place wouldn't be vacant this morning. All the folks that come into Ypsilanti are not homeless people. If you get out in the morning and you search and you see, you'll find out those folks are not homeless. They come in on the first bus and they leave on the last bus. So whatever it takes to keep Ypsilanti safe, I want you guys to pass it. Anything the police need, I want you to give it to them. And I want you to make sure that the police use what you give to them. They vowed to protect and serve.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address council? Anyone on Zoom? Bless you. The Amber Fellows, good morning.
Good morning, Council. It's Amber Fellows. I have a sinus infection, otherwise I would be there. I am city resident and also the Democratic primary elect and leading candidate for the 2024 general election. And I'm here to talk about 228 and 229. And to demand that they never come back on a agenda. Really, when I saw those resolutions, I was just kind of struck with what I consider a lack of experience of the person that created it. And my understanding is that Patrick McLean created these resolutions and Roland Tucson seconded it, and that's why they are appeared on the last. Okay, the recording is going on and off. So yeah, I just the 228 doesn't do anything like functionally. It doesn't really change any funding or structural things or laws, and so it basically doesn't do anything. But what it does do is it's incendiary. It gets people very upset. It uses language that's very dehumanizing, fascistic, and it basically functions to appease a very few squeaky landlords. And who, if this were passed, would be empowered via vigilante violence to harm people. And so therefore it's very dangerous. And I think this is also a reason why we need to look at our appointment system. People often talk about Project 2025, and one of the main policy planks of Project 2025 is they want to move towards a mostly appointment system. Well, in Ypsilanti, we already have that. That's why we have Patrick McLean. That's why we have Evan Sweet. That's why we've had many different people on council serving. And what we've seen is when we actually have votes for who we want in office, these appointees are often removed. And so we need to understand that if an appointee is making resolutions like this, they don't actually have their ideas vetted by the city because they haven't had to run and test their ideas out in a campaign. And so we get results like this. I do think residents of Ward 2 need to consider asking Patrick McLean to resign over these resolutions. I do think they are that bad. And residents of Ward 2 need to take up the responsibility of actually putting pressure on their representatives, because this is the pattern of
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Next up is Alex Grainberg.
Good morning.
You have to unmute yourself to speak.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Alex. I live, I rent, I work, hang out, volunteer, etc. In Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti. I'm here as one voice among many to demand that you vote no, or just get rid of altogether, resolutions 228 and 229, and to counter-propose a people's resolution. Whereas the Ypsilanti City Council tried to solve a social problem with police force and violence, and whereas the council attempted to sneak in a resolution contradicting a ballot initiative thousands of Ypsilanti residents signed in support. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we will not let business carry on as usual. Whereas business owners, landlords, and elected officials push narratives dehumanizing poor people, and whereas homeless people are not the problem, and whereas slumlord landlord monopolies are the problem, and whereas average rent in Ypsi has raised more than 3% in the last year to over $1,500 a month, and whereas structural inequalities and systemic failures such as lack of affordable housing, no emergency shelter, underfunded mental health and substance use treatment services, and increasing poverty have contributed to a lack of safety for some Ypsilanti residents. And whereas safety cannot be achieved without adequate access to basic survival resources, such as shelter, food, restrooms, and healthcare, and whereas police are much more expensive and empirically less effective at providing a safe community for everyone than shelter and housing. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the city will support and fund an unarmed non-police response. Be it further resolved that the city will pursue all possible avenues and build and fund a 24/7 emergency shelter now. Be it further resolved, the city will pursue all possible avenues to build an adequate amount of public housing. Be it further resolved that the city of Ypsilanti will remove their substance use treatment facilities zoning codes that block providers from providing SUD services downtown. Be it further resolved that the city manager is hereby directed to use all appropriate avenues, including the public safety and mental health millage reimbursements from the county and cannabis tax income from the state, to support these initiatives and provide compassionate, community-centered resources that address the root causes of poverty, substance use, and homelessness, while respecting the dignity and civil rights of all residents. Previous speaker wanted actions. These are actions. Here's some actionable items to provide solutions to all of
Thank
your
you.
problems.
Andrew, are you gonna keep going? Okay, thank you.
Next up to speak is Anna Taylor McCants.
Morning.
Hi, Council. Good morning. Can you all hear me? I only have one AirPod in this morning.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Great. Hi, everyone. I'm pretty sure y'all know me, but I am Pastor Anna Taylor McCants, and I serve at Fed Up Ministries located at 16 South Washington Street. I had hoped to speak this past Tuesday because I do feel just with some of the comments I'm reading, I want to correct some of the narrative that has been happening. Y'all are aware that we were vandalized, but our propane tanks did not blow up. The shower trailer is not destroyed. It's currently sitting at my house because we had a couple instances of pooping after hours, and we needed to make the lot as visible as possible on our cameras for a little while. The shower trailer will be back out next week, as well as our brand new laundry trailer. And even though we did close down for one day on Monday, not this past week, but the week before, and we didn't serve meals, every other day we continued serving meals, and we were serving, still over 100 meals for lunch every day. So there is a need around food insecurity in this community. And we are serving families, and we are serving people with children that are walking, that live in the downtown area. We are serving folks who are precariously housed. And so maybe that doesn't look exactly like homelessness, but it definitely doesn't look like housing stability. And the other thing I want to say is part of the reason why we did close was because I came in and there were some folks that were sleeping under our awning who are in fact absolutely homeless. The good preacher and I agree on a couple things and not on another couple things, but there are people that are still sleeping in other doorways downtown right now. And we have had to somewhat inhumanely be very firm about kicking people out of our awning because of the amount of public pressure that we are receiving right now. So I just want to say I am still grateful for the support that you all have sent our way to be able to serve these 10,000 meals and these, offer these showers in this place of safety for folks who are not able to find that elsewhere in the community because they don't have a place that feels like a safe home. And there is so much more that needs to be done. We need public bathrooms in downtown Ypsilanti that are open longer than our open hours because our organization is too small to be able to provide public bathrooms for the entire city all the time. We are doing, what we can, but there's still lack out there of this service, and we need a shelter. So I love this people's resolution that some of my friends have brought forward today. I don't know everyone that's been reading it, but some of the folks that have, I love hearing it over and over again because there are some good ideas in there. Did you guys know that one of the men who owns many thank you.
Next up is Cornelius W.
Morning.
Good morning, guys. Corn, Ypsi Township. I was there on Tuesday as well and was hoping I was going to get a chance to speak. So I'm happy you guys scheduled another meeting so soon. I really was confused when this resolution hit the agenda, especially considering how many conversations we've had with council about actually providing services in the downtown area. The clause that talked about a concentration of resources creating a threat to public safety is pretty comical because we don't offer any services that address the systemic failures that we're dealing with in this city. And we've been asking you guys at every single council meeting to change that. So to respond to that ask by allowing Patrick McLean to draft this resolution and then having it sponsored by Councilmember Tucson is beyond insulting. And I think what you guys are hearing is a community that is done dealing with social inequities, that's done dealing with systemic failures. And it's really difficult for me to understand how we have community members that are so avidly standing up for folks that we've been begging for support for so long. And we have a city council that's a part of that community that's actively fighting against that. It doesn't make any sense for me. You guys had so much police present at the last meeting, and you used that police force to shut down the meeting and to vacate the premises. That same police force ignored when a city commissioner assaulted a worker, a nonprofit worker in the parking lot across from City Hall. They didn't act. We had to step in as de-escalationists and crisis support and shut down that assault. Nothing was done about it. Mayor Brown has been made aware of it. We've been trying to speak with you about this. Another commissioner was involved in breaking up and de-escalating that. We have literally government officials attacking people across from City Hall, and you guys are trying to say that the public safety issue in this city is because of service provision. We need drug checking. We need a shelter. We need an overdose prevention center. Please help get these folks some quality of life instead of trying to keep lock them up. You know what the problem is. I don't understand what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up to speak is Kat Layton.
Good morning, council. Kat Layton, Ypsi City resident, Ward 3. So I just want to echo the last that yes, we do have a safety issue present. I think we all can agree on that, but I think that we are in disagreement with where this issue stems from or who or what is actually to blame. And so we're noticing that this burden of solving our societal issues, that decades of structural failures has been put on us, the people, to fix for too long. And too often the burden of solving issues like homelessness or housing insecurity is placed on us, the people, when city policies have repeatedly failed to address the root issues. And I know that this council knows better because there was a resolution 2020-115A passed on June 2nd, 2020 that expressed outrage by racial violence and police brutality for the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, that expressed that we need to have accountability for those who perpetuate violence under the badge of law, and that later resolved that they would promote equity through all policies approved by the city council and enhance educational efforts aimed at understanding, addressing, and dismantling racism and how it affects the delivery of human and social services. So whenever I first heard from Councilmember Tucson at the Ypsi Police Advisory Commission meeting that this was going to be put on the agenda, that Mr. Patrick McLean, Councilman McLean, was working on that, my first thought as a commissioner on the Human Relations Commission was to reach out to the council member because I wanted to work on that as the person who does anti-discrimination work or the commission that does that. And we are actually trying to have a community forum on mental health, on housing, and on like non-traditional forms of public safety. And we were told as a commission that that was out of our scope because discrimination, a city attorney mentioned in the memo, is discriminate means to subject anyone to different or separate treatment based in whole or in part. And source of income, felony misdemeanor convictions, disability status, and race are all things included and in protected classes. So therefore, referring to people who are unable to afford services that are paying customers and needing a place to safely congregate and receive services, and you're noticing that downtown, like that is a time to task the HRC and being an advisory body to this. I can't speak for all commissioners, but I know that as a chair, like I would love to be able to work on this and be able to actually get to solutions that address these issues. And I know that we've brought forward different things to council before, like the Fair Chance Housing Act. Thank you.
Next up is Max.
Good morning.
Good morning, Council. I am sadly not there because I'm actually working at the moment, so I will try to be as brief as possible. I just want to say that Resolution 229, it stinks of broken windows theory policing, which is this idea that if like the area is cleaned up or looks safe, that it is safe. And I mean, I have a criminology and criminal justice degree. If you go to any intro to criminal justice class, they'll tell you that that theory is just straight bullshit. I'm going to be honest. Most research shows that that type of policing doesn't work. And when it comes to dealing with addiction and crises like houselessness, police is not the answer. So, I mean, if it isn't obvious, I fully oppose Resolution 229. I'll be honest, I'm really frustrated. I'm really upset. I was also at the meeting on Tuesday. And I'll be honest, you're going to keep seeing people who are upset and really, really passionate about this just because I think as a city council, I think y'all have failed us. I think y'all have really not listened to the people. And I think y'all have failed to act when it comes to getting some sort of adequate resources for houselessness and addiction. And I mean, it's just so obvious. There's so much there, so much easy things to read as far as research that'll show what can actually be done. And I also just want to dispute this theory that like there's a bunch of outsiders that are just coming into Ypsi. Um, these are actually people who live here. I mean, just because they don't have a house or a shelter doesn't mean that they don't live here. They're still my neighbors. They're still your constituents. They're still part of our community. And I mean, really, when it comes down to like this issue's on y'all, you have failed to act. You have failed to provide adequate solutions and resources. And I don't believe in begging, but you're going to continue to see this amount of passion and this amount of work on this because I mean mutual aid groups have once again filled the role of government agencies and have come in to fill this. And you know, we are just sick of the treatment and sick of the police terror going on in our neighborhoods. And so I am going to continue to echo what others have said and say that 229 should be opposed. If you pass that, then you will be fully ashamed of yourselves. And also I oppose 228. Thank you.
Next up is Lisa.
Hi. Sorry. I'm asking for a bit of accommodation because I have lung disease and mornings are not my time. My name is Lisa Schramm. I have off and on, both housed and unhoused, been a resident of this area since the 90s. I've moved back permanently and lived, worked, and voted in Ypsilanti since 2012. I have a lot more than 3 minutes worth of things to say about this nuanced and structural issue, which no one is denying is a problem, as do many others. But for now, I am here as one voice among many to demand that you vote no to resolutions 228 and 229 and to counter people and propose a people's resolution. Whereas the Ypsilanti City Council tried to solve a social problem with police force and violence, whereas the council attempted to sneak in a resolution contradicting a ballot initiative thousands of Ypsilanti residents signed in support. Now, therefore, it be resolved that we will not let business carry on as usual. Whereas business owners, landlords, and elected officials push narratives dehumanizing poor people, and whereas homeless people are not the problem, and whereas slumlord landlord monopolies are certainly the problem, and whereas average rent in Ypsilanti with no wage inflation has increased more than 3% in the last year to over $15,000 a month, and whereas structural inequalities and systemic failures, such as lack of affordable housing, no emergency shelter, underfunded mental health and substance use treatments, and increasing poverty have contributed to a lack of safety for some Ypsilanti residents. And whereas safety cannot be achieved without adequate access to basic survival resources such as shelter, food, restrooms, and healthcare. And whereas police are much more expensive and empirically less effective at providing a safe community for everyone than shelter and housing. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the city will support and fund unearned non-police response. Be it further resolved that the city will pursue all possible avenues to build and fund a 24/7 emergency shelter. Be it further resolved that the city will pursue all possible avenues to build an adequate amount of public housing. Be it further resolved that the city of Ypsilanti will remove their substance use treatment facility zoning codes that block providers from providing SUD services downtown. Be it further resolved that the city manager is hereby directed to use all appropriate avenues, including the public safety and mental health millage reimbursements from the county and cannabis tax income from the state to support these initiatives and provide compassionate, community-centered resources that address the root causes of poverty, substance use, and home.
Next up is Abradite.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm in transit, so I'll make this brief. And I know you all have other items you want to talk about, but obviously people are really concerned about this, and we're even concerned that you might just add this somehow to the meeting. I know you said you wouldn't, but I think just as somebody who has become more kind of aware of city council actions, it's become even more confusing what your motivations are. This is a long line of actions that don't align with the larger Ypsi population and what we want. And another example is not appointing a city resident to the HRC who was well qualified and wanted to be there. It's just really strange and disheartening to see. And I think really it makes us more engaged. It doesn't allow us to allow you to continue on business as usual. It's really hard to see, and in fact emotional sometimes, because we expect you all to fight for us, and that's not what's happening right now. So that is all I will say for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Malika Warsham.
Good morning.
Ooh, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Malika. I live in the city of Ypsilanti. And I just want to say that, like everyone else is saying, you serve the people, and this is not what the people want. I mean, just deeply confused of how we request for one thing and you do the exact opposite of what our request is, and do the exact opposite that research has shown will not work. You're doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. But we know how this is going to end. And then in 2 years, we're going to be marching saying that they killed someone because, again, you're not listening to what the people want. We know that housing is an issue. We know that slumlords are the issue. I mean, I have family members who've been in Ypsi for 4 generations and can't afford to stay here anymore. So I just ask you to listen to the people of what we want, because we put you there to be our voices and not to speak on behalf of yourself or anyone else potentially paying you money, but to represent us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Emily Hawkins.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Emily Hawkins, and I'm an Ypsilanti city resident in Ward 1. And I'm here this morning as one voice among many to demand that you vote, or rather remove resolutions 228 and 229, and to propose a people's resolution instead. Whereas the Ypsilanti City Council tried to solve a social problem with police force and violence, And whereas the city council attempted to sneak in a resolution contradicting a ballot initiative thousands of Ypsilanti residents signed in support. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we will not let business carry on as usual. Whereas business owners, landlords, and elected officials push narratives dehumanizing poor people, and whereas homeless people are not the problem, and whereas slumlord, landlord monopolies are the problem, and whereas average rent in Ypsi has raised more than 3% in the last year to over $1,500 a month, and whereas structural inequalities and systemic failures, such as a lack of affordable housing, no emergency shelter, underfunded mental health and substance use treatment services, and increasing poverty, have contributed to a lack of safety for some Ypsilanti residents. And whereas safety cannot be achieved without adequate access to basic survival resources, such as shelter, food, restrooms, and healthcare, and whereas police are much more expensive and empirically less effective at providing a safe community for everyone than shelter and housing, now therefore be it resolved that the city will support and fund unarmed non-police response. Be it further resolved that the city will pursue all possible avenues to build and fund a 24/7 emergency shelter. Be it further resolved, the city will pursue all possible avenues to build an adequate amount of public housing. Be it further resolved that the city of Ypsilanti will remove their substance use treatment facility zoning codes that block providers from providing SUD services downtown. Be it further resolved that the city manager is hereby directed to use all appropriate avenues, including the public safety and mental health millage reimbursements from the county and cannabis tax income from the state, to support these initiatives and provide compassionate, community-centered resources that address the root causes of poverty, substance use, and homelessness.
Next up is Sabrina McDaniel.
Good morning.
Hi, I'm here to say that we do not need more police officers. We don't need police policing our neighborhoods. We don't need police putting homeless people in prison, in jail, or in jail. We need 24/7 shelter. We need affordable housing, access to food and bathrooms. Yeah, police are not the answer. And I'm not the only one who thinks this, like, yeah. That's it.
Thank you.
That was the last on the list, Council.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address council? Seeing none, we will close audience participation. All right. Alderman Tucson, you have our first resolution.
Council, if we could move the Yucca resolution up first.
I've got
Letter H.
226.
Okay.
H, yep.
All right, thank you. All right. Yep.
Resolution number 2024-226, resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the Ypsilanti Community Utilities Authority, Yucca, is a longstanding partner and provides consistently safe and efficient water and sanitary sewer services for the city of Ypsilanti residents, businesses, and visitors. And whereas YCUA has requested the city support in an application for funding for a West Warner water main loop project to update and upgrade the existing dead-end water main on West Warner Street by connecting it to a water main in Woods Road. And whereas the city supports ongoing improvement to the water system and specifically supports improvements to the water main on West Warner, now therefore be it resolved that the city of Ypsilanti supports YCUA's West Warner water main loop project. And if funding assistance is awarded, that the city will coordinate construction with YCUA and negotiate an easement through a recreation park in good faith, and I so move.
Been moved and supported. Good morning, Director Wessler.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. It's a fairly brief RFL. The Ypsilanti Community Utilities Authority is looking to improve their water system as always. This would help to provide more consistent and better quality water to the residents of West Warner Street in the long run. And so we are happy, as always, to partner with Yucca on future improvements. This is not anticipated to cause any issues or long-term issues with coordination of pathways throughout Recreation Park. And they've been great partners in the past. We look forward to partnering in the future.
All right, thank you. Okay, questions from council? It's pretty straightforward. All right, seeing none. You have anything, Luke, you want to say? I mean, you don't have to, just.
Thank you. Thank you for moving it up on the agenda. I would just say this is part of a package of projects, as part of the Drinking Water Revolving Fund plan that hopefully the state finalizes the plan here in the next few days. Public comment has recently ended. And it's good news that the city is eligible for approximately, through these packages of projects, around $600,000 in loan forgiveness. So we're getting a lot of, I'd say, bang for our buck in these capital improvements. It's going to happen in the city, and I think that's just great news.
Thank you. All right, if there are no questions or comments, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Coxon.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Councilmember Tucson, we're back to you.
Resolution number 2024-215, resolution to approve ordinance number 1438, whereas the city of Ypsilanti has applied for several new grants and those grants have been awarded to the city. And whereas the city of Ypsilanti needs to amend the 2024 to 25 fiscal year budget appropriation, therefore be it resolved that ordinance number 1438 entitled Budget Amendment for Budget Appropriations for 2024-2025 fiscal year be approved on second and final reading, and I so move.
Support.
And moved by Councilmember Tucson, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. Joe? Director Myers.
Hi, Council. This was presented at our last meeting. Does anyone have any other questions?
Second reading.
Yep.
Any questions from council? All right, seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet.
Yes.
Tucson.
Yes.
Pass.
Thank you. All right, Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen, you have our next resolution.
Resolution number 2024-216, resolution to approve ordinance number 1439, resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti that ordinance number 1439 entitled Adaptive Reuse Planned Unit Development, PUD, High Scope Childcare and Community Learning Resource Center be approved on second and final reading with conditions as recommended in the request for a legislation memo, and I so move.
Support.
By Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen, supported by Councilmember Sweet.
Once again, Council, this is the second reading. You had a couple of questions last time. I think they were all answered satisfactorily. Let me know if you have any other questions.
Questions from council? Please call the roll.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet.
Yes.
Councilmember Tucson.
Yes.
Pass.
Thank you. Councilmember Tucson, you have our next resolution.
Indeed, I do. Resolution number 2024-217, a resolution to approve ordinance number 1440, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti that ordinance 1440 entitled an ordinance entitled Electronic Message Board Signs be approved on second and final reading, and I so move.
Support.
And moved by Councilmember Tucson, supported by Councilmember King.
Once again, Council, this has been discussed exhaustively at the Planning Commission level and City Council level. This is the second reading. Do you have any other questions?
Any other questions from council? Let's call the roll.
Councilmember King,
Yes. Thank you.
Coxon,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember, thank you. Councilmember King, you have resolution 220.
Resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the City of Ypsilanti Fire Department applied for a turnout gear grant and has been awarded said grant from the Department of Labor Economic Opportunity. Whereas the total authorized budget is 72,714, of which 70,000 is the state's contribution and $2,714 is the city's match contribution. Whereas Mayor and City Council approved the city's Ypsilanti Fire Department budget June 2024 to include 30,000 for turnout gear account number 101-7-3390-768-03. Whereas the match fund amount of $2,714 will be deducted from the turnout gear account and not result in any additional costs for the city. Now therefore be resolved that the Ypsilanti City Council authorized Fire Chief Hobbs to sign and administer grant number E202-40304. So move.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember King, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Jamison Schultz. I'm a captain of the fire department. Basically what this is the state of Michigan has awarded grants to I think 160 fire departments in the state to allow the purchase of a second set of turnout gear for firefighters. We currently have, by my count, the need to purchase 11 sets of gear using the same pricing model would roughly be about $40,000 to purchase all that gear. So basically the PO that we're requesting is going to be either reimbursed by the state or more likely just paid by the $70,000 will be paid by the state prior to the at the time of purchase or something like that. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Questions from council?
Nope, seems pretty straightforward.
Yes.
Got a grant to pay for something
I-
that we need. And
Yeah.
we're good.
You know, nothing? All right. Please call the roll. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember King?
Yes.
Pass.
Thank you. Councilmember Sweet, you have resolution 221.
Resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti, whereas the city of Ypsilanti currently has an agreement with the Michigan Department of Transportation, MDOT, to provide for the maintenance of state trunk lines and bridges within its jurisdiction. And whereas that agreement is expiring on September 30th, has expired on September 30th, 2024. And whereas the state of Michigan and city of Ypsilanti are interested in continuing this arrangement, and now therefore be it resolved that the city of Ypsilanti approves the state trunk line maintenance contract between the city of Ypsilanti and the Michigan Department of Transportation with the term beginning on October 1, 2024 and expiring September 30th, 2029, and authorizes Bonnie Westler, Director of Public Works, to sign the contract on the city's behalf per resolution 2024-178. And I so move. Support.
By Councilmember Sweet, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. Good morning again.
Good morning, council. This is a renewal of a contract that has been going on for at least the last 10 to 15 years. We already have established procedures for all of the required reporting in place and have been following them diligently for as many years. So this should be a very simple and straightforward renewal.
Questions or comments from council? Please call the roll.
Mayor Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet?
Yes.
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 Watson?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Sweet, you have the next resolution 222.
Resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti, whereas funding has been programmed to the local streets fund for pavement preventative maintenance in the city of Ypsilanti, and whereas the city of Ypsilanti has solicited sealed bids for the project, and whereas asphalt restoration is the lowest qualified bidder and is being recommended by the city's engineering consultant for this project. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of Ypsilanti awards the 2024 to 2026 pavement preventative maintenance contract to Asphalt Restoration Incorporated for the total bid amount of $286,650 over 3 years. That the mayor and city clerk are authorized to sign this contract, subject to review by the city attorney, and any change orders are subject to review and approval by the city manager to facilitate the completion of this work up to the originally budgeted amount. And I so move. Support.
Moved by Councilmember Sweet, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen.
So this is the natural extension of a crack sealing project, which we began last year with a 1-year commitment. It was successful. It is part of any sort of ongoing preventative maintenance program and will help extend the life of our local roads for which we do not have a long-term capital funding plan or maintenance plan. So this will cover us for, I believe it's 3 years, about 70,000 pounds of crack steel per year. And it'll help us kickstart that maintenance.
Questions from council? Councilmember Sweet.
Is this a different contractor than was originally, that was in the previous?
Yeah, the
agreement?
contractor from last year, I don't believe I saw a bid from them.
Questions? Please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Councilmember King, you have 223.
Whereas the lanes on the Prospect Bridge must be closed in short order for an indefinite period of time, and whereas quotes for such a closure were solicited on the city's behalf, and now therefore be resolved that the Ypsilanti City Council award the contract to close 2 lanes of Prospect Road to Fonson and Company. I so move.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember King, supported by Councilmember Sweet.
So currently, the city of Ypsilanti has 2 road bridges in poor condition. Those are Cross Street Bridge and Prospect Bridge. They're of a similar age and construction. Actually, Prospect Bridge is about 10 years older. They're box span, they're deteriorating, and we are required to assess their load annually. When we did assess Prospect Bridge's load, we found some damage on the underside of the bridge, which would necessitate closing 1 lane directly above it. Looking at the orientation of the bridge, the flow of traffic and all of that, and probably the expected funding timeline, we are looking at closing 2 lanes out of abundance of caution because it is 1 lane north there, and it's as easy to close off 2 lanes. So that is what we are doing. We do need to do this in an expedited fashion, and Fonson did have the lowest.
All right. Questions from council? Councilmember Sweet.
This is the 2 center lanes in north and southbound, right there. So these permanent barricades will be up for whatever duration until repairs can be
Funded.
funded, and there's no estimated timeline right on that because of the nature of it.
Correct. So we do know that Prospect Bridge actually requires a similar level of love as the Cross Street Bridge. So we are looking at approximately a $10 million project.
Okay.
Is there any sort of hazard in play then with, I don't know what entity owns the tracks that are under that?
The MDOT rail.
They do own that. Okay.
Okay. Other questions from council? All right, seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Tucson,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Tim Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Sweet.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember King, you have resolution 227.
Whereas October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, DVAM, and whereas the mission of the Safe House Center is to serve and advocate for domestic violence survivors and against the existing systems that allow domestic violence. And whereas the Safe House Center proposes to do a ribbon campaign for DVAM by tying purple ribbons throughout the city with informational place cards attached. And whereas the Safe House Center will cover all expenses incurred by this campaign, and there will be no cost to the city. Therefore, be resolved that the mayor and city council supports this campaign and approve purple ribbons being tied throughout the city, October the 1st through October the 31st. I so move.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember King, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. Pretty straightforward.
This is just, it's similar to the Turn the Town Teal thing. It was done last year.
Questions from council?
I guess just a quick question, since it says October the 1st, were the ribbons already tied, or are we just waiting for this resolution? to
Just
pass?
waiting for this resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
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 Councilmember Sweet.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Sweet, you have our next resolution 231.
Resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti, whereas the City of Ypsilanti is required to provide uniforms to Department of Public Works employees under the collective bargaining agreement with TPOAM and such agreement with the city's current provider Cintas will expire December 2024. And whereas the Department of Public Works has identified the need to prioritize enhanced safety requirements for uniforms and personal protective equipment, and has directed solicited quotes for such goods and services. And whereas the UniFirst Corporation has submitted the lowest qualified offer to provide uniform delivery and laundry services as well as floor mat delivery services. And now therefore be it resolved that the City Council hereby authorizes City Manager Andrew Halenga to enter into a service agreement with UniFirst Corporation to provide uniform and floor mat services to the Department of Public Works and City Hall. And I so move. Support.
Moved by Councilmember Sweet, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen. Hello again.
So we currently use Cintas for uniforms and for our mats. We would like to change to UniFirst. We solicited lots and lots of quotes. These are the ones that suit our needs the best.
All right. Yeah, I looked at the table. I support. Any questions from council? Call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilcoxen?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Street?
Yes.
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 All right, thank you. This is our second opportunity for audience participation. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to address council, please raise your hand. Anyone on Zoom?
Cornelius W. has their hand raised.
Morning again.
Hi, good morning again. I didn't get a chance or didn't remember to say the last time that I do think it's a great idea for folks in Patrick McLean's ward to speak up about a request for resignation over this. I also think that, council, you guys can choose to have the Human Relations Commission hold it's essentially a tribunal to discuss whether or not this council member's publishing of discriminatory words and the supporting council members publishing of this discriminatory language is aligned with the city charter. And again, that type of action from the HRC to determine whether or not discriminatory action was taken within the city is completely within their scope as it's outlined in the city charter that the city attorney refers to regularly. So there's a lot, of really, really harmful action that's been taken by city officials around this resolution and around what happened at the city council meeting. And my hope is that you guys are going to do the right thing here and indefinitely take this resolution off the agenda, focus on actual service provision in Ypsi, and then address some of this malfeasance from council members and commissioners in the city. At the end of the day, this is all happening well within the public eye. And so I think you guys as elected officials have a responsibility to do something about it. So yeah, look forward to seeing what that course of action is going to look like. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Next up is Kat Layton.
Again?
Good morning again, Council. Ward 3 resident Kat Layton. I didn't get to finish what I was saying the first time. 3 minutes creeps up fast when you don't have a visual reminder. So sorry about that. So I just wanted to say that I do think that the resolution, how it was written, 229, it conflates economic power with civil rights, suggesting that those with economic stakes have more claim to protection or safety and consideration. However, civil rights is meant to protect all individuals, especially those who are most vulnerable to discrimination and harm, which is what the Human Relations Commission was created out of, as the Non-Discrimination Ordinance, Chapter 58 of the Code of Ordinances, that again lists source of income, race, gender, felony misdemeanor convictions, these different protected classes as that. And so when the resolution places a burden of safety concerns on vulnerable people while affirming the rights of property owners and businesses, like 2 clauses later, It reinforces existing power dynamics that undermines the civil rights of marginalized people in favor of economic interests. And I know that this council has, the resolution passed in 2020 is a great example of like something that can be spoken about from council that puts truth into power about the need to really center equitable policies and dismantle structural systems and harm. And in April 2nd, 2024, city council approved to ban minor traffic stops as a resolution, but refused to do this as an ordinance, even though we know that that would include, EMU, who's contracted to serve a sworn an oath to the city of Ypsi Code of Ordinances. And on June 4th, the city council voted, Councilmember Sweet, Councilmember Tucson, Mayor Brown, Councilmember McLean voted against allocating $285,795 for an unarmed non-police crisis response pilot program. And then later, June 18th, 2024, Councilmember Sweet, Councilmember Tucson, and Councilmember McLean, and Mayor Brown absent, concluded a no vote and deprioritizing the enforcement of arrests and investigation of people with trace amounts who were utilizing drug checking services. And then on September 17th, I know there's a discussion on October 15th to transfer $1.2 million from the general fund into a rainy day fund. And so I ask that in addition to this consideration, that we really look at evidence-based solutions that will help the safety concerns that we're experiencing. Business owners don't need to clean up feces from their property, and people deserve a right to have access to restrooms. And if city council is worried about having needles disposed.
Next up is Amber Fellows.
Again.
Hi. And I just want to note that, ostensibly the reason why the meeting was shut down by Mayor Brown last, whatever, when that was because someone was going over their speaking time. But often others that attend council meetings go over their speaking time, even Mayor Brown's own family members, and meetings don't get shut down for that reason. So I don't think that is applied very equally or fairly. And I don't think people should ignore the fact or shoulder the blame on, passionate attendees of council who have things to say. Anyway, I'm really glad that Kat just laid out a whole timeline of events, of actions that council could have taken that would progress and respond to this issue that just blocked. And so, yeah, I just want to reiterate that these resolutions should be withdrawn. I do see regressive moves being made during a lame duck period. And it's not surprising, but it is going to catch attention. And I think more and more people are seeing some of these actions that you've been doing, including these pretty questionable appointments to commissions. And the last time someone was doing questionable appointments and decommissions, there was a uproar about it, and that person was vacated. So I just I don't think this is a good path to be trying to barrel through regressive policy before November. So please don't do that. People are watching, and we want better from you. The last thing I'll say is that I've been on Washington Street like every day for the last 2 weeks, often both during the day and at night. And what I am seeing is just straight up harassment from the police. I've had so many interactions with the police this year. It's been more than the last like 3. I'm just shocked at how aggressive and how out of control the police are not responding to things that actually are worth responding to, like gunshots 25 feet away, and instead trying to shut down Totally Awesome Fest. It's just out of control. The police are already over patrolling, so the people that want to see more presence, you're getting it, and you're not getting results that you want. So yeah, someone that has to actually draw down the amount of presence that's happening on Washington Street, because it's just escalating the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barr?
Yes, I'd like to mention for the record that at the last meeting that the mayor adjourned, the council provides, or the city charter provides that the council has the power to do the business of the city. And the business of the city is done through city council meetings. And they have to have some time to do that. That when people come to talk about public comment, they have the right to do that, but they do not have the right to shut the meeting down. And that's what happened on last Tuesday. The audience got out of control, was shouting and chanting, and it was impossible for the city council to continue. And that's why the mayor shut the meeting down.
Thank you, Mr. Barr.
Next up is Anna Taylor McCants.
Yeah.
Hi guys, I just have a couple of things. So some practical things that we can do right now. I really loved Dez's Facebook Live because she did kind of mention things that have already come forward. But currently right now, I have 2 different staff members who are sleeping in tents in the Ypsilanti area, and both of them have reported that the city has shut off the power to the outside of the Freight House and to the parks around Frog Island and Riverside where they charge their phones. So literally my team can't make it to work on time unless I give them bus tokens to go charge and use the bathroom and sit at the Ann Arbor Library right now, because that's like the only space that they can go. So we're going through a ton of bus tokens because it's not just my team members who are needing this, but it's other folks who are experiencing homelessness right now too. So I would love to see if maybe there's a way that we could get some power, maybe not concentrated downtown right where Fed Up is and Growing Hope, but maybe we could turn that back on so that people can charge their devices and connect with their families and their jobs right outside of the Washington Street corridor. I would also love to collaborate on some solutions, you know, the ones that Des had mentioned in her Facebook Live, if you guys got to see it. A lot of cool different groups in the community are bringing forth ideas, but maybe we need to imagine a space in which more city council members are present at forums where we come up with some solutions together that are outside of police. That's what I'm hearing, is that a lot of folks want to be involved. And so I don't know how we can facilitate that, but I would be supportive of something like that. And then, yeah, I mean, that's mostly it. Thank you all for, you know, considering taking this particular resolution that folks were upset about last week off of the agenda entirely in the future, and maybe rethinking that, because safety is important. Not only safety for business owners and residents, but our residents who don't have an address, but are still residents of the city. And I think that there's ways that we can work on achieving that safety without further, you know, separating the folks who have and the folks who don't have as much. And lastly, I do think that last week, or earlier this week rather, it's hard for us to have reverence and respect, us as in like folks who feel like the system hasn't served them. And so I can see easily how the meeting got derailed, because folks are feeling like this current systems that we have in place aren't serving the needs of everyone, right? And so how can we imagine changing some of these systems together to serve the needs of those who feel like they have been, you know, historically missed in all of this? I don't know that I have the exact solutions, but I do think that coming together as a group, like with more council members and community members, would be definitely a great way to start some of this so that we can come up with some creative collaborative solutions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No other hands are raised.
Oh, the hand in the back, press off first and then.
Thank you. I just want to state again, first, like, you guys, we're watching you. We see what you're doing. I'm very glad that the council meeting was stopped earlier this week. I'm very glad that somebody went over time and you all saw fit to shut it down. Now the entire city and the state of Michigan is watching Ypsilanti for what we do here. We're setting precedent. We are noticing where you are putting your resources, where you are putting your money. We have an opportunity to view people as a resource for their work and their minds, not as a resource to be brutalized by officers and put in a box for a fee. There is a way to make this city's financial issues move forward. This is not a way to save money. The community that takes care of these businesses, the community that comes and supports Ypsi, loves Ypsi, and part of Ypsi is sharing that love. So if you want those businesses to continue doing well, listen to the people who have come before you today to tell you, we love Ypsi. Do not do this to our people. Thank you.
Thank you. Hand in the back. Good morning.
Morning. Hi, my name is Shannon Batchelor. I am a resident in Ward 3. I just want to reiterate what so many people here have already said and urge the City Council to vote no on Resolution 228 and 229. The people that have spoke, there's been social workers, there's been people who have a lot of experience, like community organizers and volunteers that actually deal with the people that you guys are trying to criminalize on a daily basis. And I believe very strongly that what we need is not to incarcerate them or criminalize them or, just, we need public housing. We need warming shelters. We need harm reduction services, mental health services. The last thing they need is it's just this societal issue. The answer is not to police and send them to jail, and it's only going to make the problem worse. The police, quite frankly, do not keep us safe. They serve a very select portion of the population. And the idea that we need more policing is frankly inhumane, dangerous, and cruel. I'm a little disgusted that this proposition suggests that we need to criminalize these people. I urge you to listen to all the counter proposals that have been brought up. Just all the other things that we could do with our money that would actually help the situation. I'm not gonna reiterate the script because I know you guys have heard it a lot, but there is just so much better things that we could do with our money. And I urge you to listen to the many passionate and caring and good people that have spoken today. And this is not a small minority or a loud minority. This is, maybe maybe consider our police budget proposal that we submitted to City Council. That 800 plus Ypsilanti citizens signed, and that only includes the people that we were able to reach, who actually want more control over the police budget, more limit over the police budget, but instead y'all are trying to do the opposite. I think that's also kind of disgusting. Anyway, thank you. Thank you.
Just real quick, again, Seth Best. I live at the corner of Adams and Washtenaw, and I want to give an example of a way that cops actually don't help. So right at the intersection, Washtenaw becomes two-way. And I want to say it was last week or maybe the week before, in which a lot of people do not realize that it becomes a two-way. And I was sitting out on my porch. I watched a cop pull someone over. They ended up letting that person go. They went right into that parking lot for the church. They sat there for a bit, then they came and they sat at the stop sign for a good 10 minutes. In that 10-minute period, at least 2 cars did a rolling stop, and then another 2 cars continued going down the wrong side of the street, and the cop didn't do anything to pull them over, to point out that there was rules there that they weren't following. And so even though there was a cop that was sitting right there, crimes were committed, because traffic violations were committed. So the idea of that by putting more cops someplace that is going to discourage crime is a fallacy. Because cops do have the discretion of when they arrest somebody, when they harass somebody. And I'm not advocating that we need to have more traffic and violations. I'm just pointing out the fact that even if a cop is sitting right there, crimes and violations will and can happen. The best thing we can do is do more education, put better signing. For people who are living on the streets, again, what we could be doing is we could be providing people with an actual safe place to be, somewhere where they can find the time to be able to recoup from the day, to be able to take showers, to do their own laundry. You can't go to work if you don't have clean clothes. You can't go to work if you smell like shit. I would like to see council start going and talking to the people who are going to actually be impacted by these rule changes, instead of talking to just the people who can pay and fund their re-election campaigns. I don't have a lot of money. I am poor. I know, and I have lived on the streets, and I know that council, to be here, be it state, don't care about poor people, and they show it every time a resolution like this comes up, and that they are actually considering supporting that when they're not actually talking about to the people who are going to be impacted. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else now? Please come. Good morning.
I'm also here to speak on the resolution.
State your name for the record,
Oh,
please.
my name is Christian Grant. I think that the resolution is really disgusting because fundamentally, it's not a solution to any problem. It is trying to get rid of people that, or to use the police to get rid of people that business owners see as a problem. It's not addressing any issues of homelessness or why people use drugs or any other any other thing. It's just saying that if people are seen as in some way undesirable because of who they are or their actions, their supposed actions, that they can be removed, and if they don't want to be, forcefully removed, they can be put in a cage. That's what police do. They force you to do what they want, or they put you in a cage, or they harm you, or they hurt you to do it. The police are violent, and it's not a solution. It's just sicking. It's just sicking that violence on people that certain people consider a problem, and it's also gross. The city council should not be able to have a meeting where it's discussing whether or not to put people in cages for supposed social problems. It's if you were, if someone was going to put your friend in a cage, and they're going to have a meeting about how to do it, I think, you might be a little bit indignant as to their proceedings. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? So we're, no? All right,
One more person.
one more.
Online. Joelle Coles. Allow you to speak.
Morning.
Hi, sorry, this is a shared Zoom account. My name is KJ Pedri. I'm with Homelessness Solidarity Network. I work on a daily basis in downtown with our unhoused population, with our population of substance users, and with the greater community. I am startled and taken aback by City Council's response to these issues. I had more faith and trust in City Council that they were informed and aware of the processes that help and the processes that hurt in these scenarios. I trusted them when they said that the issues were budgetary and not a matter of conscience and morals, which is how I see the decision making that is happening. I want to call attention to the fact that if you cannot de-escalate a room full of citizens engaging in civil protest, I have no faith in your ability to de-escalate the situation on Washington Street. Mayor Nicole Brown showed a lack of de-escalation skill in her handling of the meeting, her handling of the protesters, and her handling of the overall scenario. The police showed a lack of de-escalation skills by placing someone in handcuffs for saying that they would leave the building when another citizen who happened to be in the building beyond the point that you had asked us all to leave. If their only response is to use force and violence to intervene in that situation, they are not going to help the situation on on Washington Street. They are going to continue to harass, assault, traumatize individuals, which will take them further from the root cause of their traumas, the root cause of why they are on the street, and it will add to it. It will add the trauma of consistent harassment and abuse, the trauma of incarceration, the trauma of forced hospitalization, and all of the things that go with that. So you are deepening this issue. You are making my job harder. And I am here removing people from Washington Street and housing them in my own home. I have 5 people in my home right now who would otherwise be on that street. How many do you have? How many unhoused people who would otherwise be on the street do you have in your home right now? You are making our jobs harder. You are making our lives harder. And worst of all, you are doing profound harm.
Anyone else? Mr. Barr.
Our Constitution gives us the right of peaceful assembly. It does not give us the right to disrupt meetings. In fact, the action of disrupting a public meeting is a crime. It's disorderly conduct, and it's a breach of the peace. And that's what happened on Tuesday.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. All right. Seeing none, there aren't any remarks from council. The meeting is adjourned.